So I'm here at the Military History Museum in Santa Cruz de Tenerife, and here's a big exhibition to the Nelson attack in late July of 1797. This was the third major English Navy attack on the islands, and the two previous ones had failed, and so has this one, but Nelson had a real go at this. And the whole affair took only 2 or 3 days, and it was started with Nelson landing in Anaga, just north of the town. But he had a formidable opponent, and that was General Gutierrez. And he was the main kind of person in charge. And Gutierrez was a worthy opponent for Mr. Nelson. So anyway, Nelson landed with 900 mariners in Anaga, and he wanted to attack the capital from the north, but it failed. He was coping badly with the ground because there was a lot of ravines, and he got some opposition as well. So he went back to the boats and he planned a night attack for the following night. But they were found to be approaching the shore with little boats, longboats, and then they were fired on, and this was actually the night Nelson lost his arm. But here's a little display of the main ships that Nelson had, and here we have the flagship, and then there is a number of smaller ships that he had in his fleet. There was the odd little Spanish ship amongst them as well. They were actually, stolen, captured ships that came from Cadiz, and he had several of them in his fleet, but they were mainly smaller boats. Most of them were actually English ships. And here's the Emerald, actually, and the Emerald didn't fare so well. I'll show you a little bit more about the Emerald. And then here he had some of the smaller boats, and this is one of the Spanish ones that was a captured ship, and this was part of the fleet that Nelson had. So he had about 1,500 men, and he approached the town of Santa Cruz then, and this was in late July. After the failed landing in Anaga, he did a night attack, and this kind of didn't go very well either. So here is the kind of bombardment shown, and here we see the small longboats entering the shore. And one of his ships was actually shot at and sank right there with over 200 sailors going down. And Captain Gibson of that ship, he went down as well. And the problem with the longboats was when they landed, it was rather chaotic, it was rather disorganized. It was at 2 a.m. in the morning. And this is actually where Nelson also had the injury on his arm. A shrapnel from a cannon blast hit his arm, and he actually went back to the flagship where his arm was amputated in that night. And that unfortunately left the troops on shore in a bit of a disarray. And two major groups formed, and these two major groups were running around in the city, and there they were causing some havoc, but they could not sustain themselves without any major support, without any relief or reinforcements. So here is a little model of the longboats coming to shore, fighting some of the local guards. Actually, to be fair, Nelson had something to more than 350 guns on his boats, but the Spanish defenses, which was made of 16 little forts and fortresses, had only about 100 guns, just short of 100 guns. So actually Nelson was certainly in possession of a lot more firepower than the opponents, but he didn't use that to the best effect. He had several landings. One, as I said, early on in Anaga, then the other one in the city, but both of them were not successful. So, and here we have a few relics from the 1797 battle. Here's a few shrapnels from cannonballs that go back to that night, and they are on display here in the museum. Rather fascinating, honestly, I have to admit. So here is the defenses that the Spanish had in place. There was about 16 small fortresses And along the shore is where Nelson's fleet came, shot at the city quite rigorously. He gave an ultimatum first that the town should capitulate, but the Spanish refused, and then he said then he will unleash all the horrors of war. And well, he had a go, but it didn't succeed. And here, this is what I came for, because I saw this in La Laguna many years back, but now it's been moved and I couldn't find it in the museum in La Laguna, so I heard it's here. This is actually the battle flag of the Emerald, and it's still here because it was captured in the battle. And here we see an impression of the battle and some of the ships being, yeah, in bad shape during the battle, and 15th of July of 1797. So this is how it looked, and the flag is still here, and it was presented to the king when he visited in 1909. The people of the city are still so proud that they showed this hundreds of years later to the king, outlining how loyal they are to the Spanish crown. And this was the third British or English attack that they withstood, and therefore the color of arms, the coat of arms of the city of Santa Cruz has 3 lion heads, marking the 3 English attacks that were repelled. So here's another one. I'm not entirely sure from which ship this is, but this is another Union Jack that was captured. It's quite large, and this comes from the 1797 events. And here, when the English eventually capitulated, they formed a line and they marched back to the shore. And it was all very chivalrous in the end of the day. And here the people, the soldiers, the British soldiers, were allowed back on their ships. Gutierrez was very generous, and he said they can all leave. And so they went back to their ships. And then Nelson, having just about recovered from losing his arm, and Gutierrez exchanged a few letters, and they exchanged some gifts. Cheese and wine was sent back and forwards, and they were, well, quite gentlemanly about it, I would say. So here is a bust of Mr. Gutierrez, the general. He is still revered as a hero here. He was one of the few that were actually able to match Nelson. So here, the victor over Nelson. And here is a painting. It's a younger painting, but it shows the British officers signing the capitulation, la capitulación. And this ended the events. After that, there was no English attack anymore. Nelson had to promise during that he will never attack the island of Tenerife again. And this was the closing of that situation. And here we see the English soldiers marching out of town from their stronghold. They had captured a little monastery in the night of the longboat attack, but they couldn't hold it. And then they were marched out in honor formation, but they were not to return after that. So that's the display here, and rather beautiful. And here is a list of heroes from the 1797 battles. And it was in technically several smaller battles in quick succession, but from the 1797 attack on Santa Cruz by Nelson's fleet. So I close here, and this was wonderful. I really kind of enjoyed this. I always wondered about this. And the people of Santa Cruz are very proud because the sea in front of Santa Cruz still actually holds Nelson's arm, probably at the bottom of the ocean there. Thank you very much. All the very best.